it to him. All right, Randy
Definitely.
Ostro's got it. Questions.
Tony, thank you very much for coming on board. This has been tremendous, and I can't wait to get in to read some more of your stuff. The question that came to mind was when you were describing your background, and when you got to a point where you were doing things that you were hiding. What was, and I know you had met the homeless person, the homeless angel. What was the jolt that moved you to action from getting off of that thing and actually, the jolt that got you to move to recommit?
Yeah, one, literally that moment with that man on the street was part of that. That was huge. Another jolt was, when my wife found some cigarettes one day in my vehicle, and I was so embarrassed and I was so ashamed. And it's crazy because I thought, man, I'm even getting a little emotional thinking about it. I thought in that moment she was going to be so mad and angry, but she was actually more concerned. She's like, are you really that stressed? Are you really that is that anxiety that high? And I was like, yeah. So just even her, how she didn't say it was cool, but she came at me with compassion. Gaining those 30 pounds of weight was no fun. As a guy that loves to be in shape, that loves to feel good in his body, that knows what it feels like to operate, at a high capacity physically.
Yeah.
I found myself, because I wasn't taking care of myself physically, in the ER multiple times, getting some MRIs and scans and things that, weren't I didn't plan on anticipating happening. I was fortunate in something Scott alluded to earlier. I have a group of guys I meet with every Thursday here when I'm in LA. We call it Man Morning. And these are primarily all business owners. We all have different backgrounds. Some married, some not married, etc. But these are men that took me to task. Again, they called me up, not out. And so having that encouragement. And, last thing I'll say to your question is, I'm also a firm believer in this. I had to recommit to what was most important. In society nowadays, we talk so much about the word commitment. One thing we don't talk about enough is recommitment. Yeah. Every single day, we have to recommit to what's most important in our life. We have to recommit to those things that we signed up for. We have to recommit to those things that we agreed to do. And for me, integrity is keeping your agreement or changing an agreement that no longer works for you. The truth of the matter is, and this book is blunt. The truth of the matter, here's what I know, man. No one owes me anything, but I owe myself absolutely everything, right? I know people care about me, my wife, my kids, my mom, and others. People care about me, and no one can care more about my life than I do.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I thought that the best thing to happen to me was behind me instead of in front of me. And that's not a fun place to be, because we know so many folks who talk about the best thing to happen. Oh, college, best years of my life. Buying a house, best year of my life. Having kids, best thing that ever happened to me. Those things are great, but if the best things that happen to us are behind us, I think something's wrong. That means we haven't been intentional about how we're living, about how we're moving forward. And we can find ourselves on living on autopilot. So it was a variety of things that were building up over time. Life is fascinating in that it can be like shaking up a carbonated beverage. and if you don't if you don't slowly open that bad boy over time, whether it be with therapy, working with a coach, taking care of yourself, it typically explodes at the wrong time when you're wearing all white at a public event. So my suggestion for all of us is not to get to that point. I was fortunate that I didn't have that type of explosion, if you will. But it's still, a lot of folks are at this place that will tell me, I'm not as happy as I look on Facebook, Antonio. I don't feel as successful as my title demonstrates on LinkedIn. So a long answer, but I hope that was helpful.
No, I really appreciate that. And thanks for sharing. I think that's the tipping point to moving in the right direction, is coming to that crossroads and making that recommitment. So thank you.
Yeah. And last thing I'll say, and I'm glad we're doing it in this setting right here, is don't do it alone. Prior to the pandemic, there was an epidemic of loneliness. We tend to isolate when things aren't going well, and that's when we need to connect, and that's when we need to collaborate. And I definitely isolated, and I have some awesome people in my life that Jess Ekstrom, who's going to be a guest on here soon, who's one of those people. If I disappear for a few days, they're calling like, oh, I know when you disappear, you might be in a funk. Let me check in on you. So I have good people like that in your life.
I love that. Thank you.